Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Boundaries, the world's premier podcast for international students, or at least in the top 3,000. I am joined today by the most distinguished guest I have had. This is Aicha Sawaneh, a senior at Youngstown State University who arrived in America all the way from the beautiful country of Sierra Leone. Aicha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Aicha.
Yes, and I'll give the audience some context. The reason I reached out to you, some random dude on LinkedIn, is because in my Google Alerts feed, an op-ed popped up from someone at Youngstown State, and it was this heartfelt piece about your experience studying in the U.S. I laughed, I got a little misty, and I had to reach out. And Aicha, I think part of why it resonated so much with me was your experience actually aligns a little bit with me. And to give you an example, you mentioned an anecdote where you were asked by a fellow student if you had an elephant at home.
Yep. Yeah. So that was like I think it was like my second week in America, and I was talking to this one girl. Well, she was white, but I was talking to her and she was like, "Oh, so do you have an elephant back home?" And I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, like a pet back home, an elephant." I'm like, "No." I was like, "We have dogs and cats too." She was like, "No." Growing up, I heard that Africa, they have like elephants, lions as pet. I'm like, "Girl, no. No, you have to go to the zoo for that." No.
Well, the reason this resonated with me, so I grew up in Oklahoma, which is kind of the country. There's a lot of cattle and a lot of ranches, stuff like that. And I went to school in the Northeast with a lot of students from Boston and New York and Philadelphia, big city folks.
Okay.
And I was asked on more than one occasion if I had cows at home. So when I read that, I laughed. So for the record, no cows at home, Aicha, no elephants.
No elephants.
All right, asked and answered. Well, here's another parallel. I currently live in Cincinnati, which is on the other side of the state, but you and I are both Ohio residents right now.
Right.
I was curious. You traveled, as you said in your piece, 9,253 miles to Youngstown State.
Yep.
What's your impression of Ohio?
Ohio was quite different when I came here. I felt like it was so laid back. I don't know, but I just expected it to be so busy. I mean, this was my first time in America, but I just expect everything to just be fast paced. But when I got here, everyone was just like taking their time. I'm like, that's not what I saw on TV. But then I went to New York. I was like, oh, this is what I saw on TV, New York. It was crazy because it was like very fast. Like everyone was like super busy. And I've been like, when I went to New York, I had already been here for like a year. So I hated New York. I was like, yeah, I'm not used to the fast pace anymore. I want to go back to Ohio. It's so chill. It was so laid back. But another thing that caught me off guard was the weather. It was super cold.
Yeah. Sorry.
It was super cold. I was like, oh, I don't know if this was the right time to come here, guys.
No, have you grown accustomed to the Ohio winters? Because you're in northeastern Ohio. I mean, it's cold.
Right.
It gets cold.
It really does get cold. But I do love it. And I found out when I got here that I actually don't like the heat. And when it's cold here, everyone put on like the heater and stuff like that. That makes me sick. I get sick. And I live here with my brother and my sister. They get cold easily. So the heater is always home. I'm like, guys, no, I'm dying here. So I have to have like a fan in my room, which is crazy because it's cold right now. And they were like, are you okay? I'm like, no, guys, I'm sick. Because I don't know, the heater is like all the way like 90 something. I'm like, maybe put it down a little bit. So I think I've got used to like the cold, but I haven't got used to like the experience where it's cold and people put on like the heater because I'm like, guys, I'm getting uncomfortable, but then I don't want to look weird because it's cold. I don't want to say to turn on the AC, guys. So
now, when you return home to visit, do you have to cover yourself in ice cubes? What's the strategy now that you've reversed your climatic conditioning?
that was so crazy because when I was growing up, my dad always has his like air condition on in his room, and I always complained. I was like, it's so cold. But then when I went home in 2020 and it was so hot, I was actually forcing my dad to turn on his air conditioner. He was like, "But I don't like it." I was like, "Yeah, I'm from America now. Yeah, sorry, I'm Americanized." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry."
That's so funny. Well, with the amount of students that come to the US that are from areas that are awfully close to the equator, this is a surprisingly effective pitch. Come to America. It's cold.
It is cold.
So you've happily landed at a cold spot. To your surprise, you enjoy it. But how did you pick Youngstown State? How did you land in Ohio?
So when I actually took the my brother and I took the SATs, we got our results back and we were applying for colleges. I really don't know how I applied for Mount Union because I actually applied for Mount Union and my brother applied for Youngstown State. And I got accepted into Mount Union. He got accepted into Youngstown State. But then my dad wanted us to like be together. He didn't want it to be like separated.
Hmm.
So he was like, you guys discuss and figure out how you're gonna do this. So we each applied for each other's colleges, and I got accepted into Youngstown State, and I don't think he got accepted into Mount Union.
Huh.
And so, yeah,
It's,
that's how I'm here.
so here you are.
So I chose Youngstown. I was like, yeah, and they gave me a huge scholarship too. It was like, even though I got a scholarship from Mount Union, it was just like way better, and it was like cheaper too. So my dad was like, yep.
That's great. Now, are you and your brother in quiet competition, or is there?
We were when we first got here, but then we just realized that no, it's okay. It's okay to just leave life because again, it was just us, and we were not gonna be in competition all the time and just ended up hating each other. So we're like, no, it's fine. You can get all the A's, I can get all the B's. I'm fine.
Well, and then you average out. The Sawaneh family has an A minus. It works for everyone.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned scholarships. I know that
Mhm.
studying in the US is awfully expensive, and scholarships are top of mind for lots of students. So, did you have a specific strategy there, or did you just apply to the scholarships that were available at those two schools and cross your fingers?
So the crazy thing with Youngstown was when you applied as an international student, well, I don't know if it was an international student, but I think when you apply, you get a scholarship if you have over a 3.0 GPA. I think that was the case. With Mount Union, I don't know how I applied. I To this day I'm still surprised how we actually applied to these colleges because I'm like, how did we apply to so many colleges and actually got in? Like sometimes me and my brother we were like, this has to be fake because there's no way.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I had another curiosity for you.
What?
You mentioned in your piece, which I'll share in the show notes. It's so good. Um, you mentioned that you were surprised by how relaxed the professors were over here.
Mhm.
And when I read that at first, I think, oh, great, that's probably a good thing. But maybe that posed some challenges early on. So explain the difference in the temperament or style of the professors that you noticed in the States.
So when I first arrived here, I when I go to class, when I want to ask question, I have raised my hand up, and I just see people talking. I'm like, that's rude because I'm not used to that. Like back home, if you want to ask a question, like you have to raise your hand up. You have to call everyone like sir, madam, or say uncle or Mister this. And yeah, I just hear people just say professor or just speak out of turn. I was like, am I crazy? Like, what is going on? So I stopped talking in class because I was like, I don't know what to do because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to raise up my hand. I'm not sure if I'm just supposed to talk out of turn and stuff like that. And my first class, when the semester ended, I actually saw that I got like, was it like 10 points or 15 points for like for not talking in class basically,
Hmm.
where others were getting like 50 points and stuff like that. I was like, oh, so you actually are supposed to take part in class and talk and interact with the professor and do stuff. I was like, I didn't know that because like back when we don't do like you're not supposed to talk if the professor is not talking to you. And if you want to talk, you have to raise your hand up. You don't just go out of class like that. And here I notice that people just leave class. But then again, we were in college, so and I never attended college back home. So I don't know if that was the case. And people just leave class like that. I was like, oh, that's rude. But now I do it too. Now, again, I've been Americanized. I just leave class now. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm tired. Bye.
So on top of the more relaxed scene where you've got more freedom and flexibility, anything else
Right.
surprise you about how an American university works?
Yeah. What surprised me was how, like, again, back home, I'm not trying to say like no, like the professors are not like chill, but you don't really have conversations with them. Like you don't go to their office and start having like a whole conversation with them like your friend. No, you see them and say hi, Mr. Camara, and then move on. That's it. That's it. But here, I go to my professor's office hours and sit and have conversations and be like, oh, so I didn't understand what happened in class today. And they take their time. They really explain it to you. Like they're really here to make your dreams come true. They're really here to help you. And I feel like as international students, we don't know that because we're not used to that. We don't take the opportunities to go to their office hours to talk to them, to tell them, oh, we don't understand this in class and stuff like that. And it took me almost failing in biology to actually started doing that. I was like, yeah, I don't want to fail biology. I'm going to your office hours. So I started talking to her and she was like, well, yeah, that's what the office hours are for. Like, this is your time to come to me and tell me what you don't understand in class. This is where you come and I'll explain to you better because maybe some people don't understand, like, they need a one-on-one. I was like, I didn't know that.
Mm.
Like back home, if I don't understand anything, I have to talk to my dad and they have to hire a teacher to come to my house and teach me. Like I don't have an office hour where I go and talk to someone. No.
Again, this echoes with me. I did not take advantage of office hours until my junior year
Right.
because I didn't want to impose. It felt strange.
Mm-mm.
It
Right.
felt a little foreboding to enter the professor's realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to fail a, a class called Philosophy of Mind.
Ugh. Ugh.
And I finally took advantage. I went took advantage of office hours, and that professor coached me through the rest of the course. That's what they're there for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So students coming to America, take advantage of the office hours. That's part of the
Please.
experience, right?
Yes, please.
Now, you mentioned biology. Is that your main course of study, or what do you spend most of your time on?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, it's not. No, I had to take like a science gen ed and I thought, oh, biology. I took that back home. Yeah, it's not the same. I'm sorry, guys. Unless you're in pre med, then you do you, boo. Me, no, no. Yeah. So I actually, when I came here, I was doing poly science, pre law, because I do want to go to law school. Well, I wanted to go to law school. I think I still want to go to law school. I'm still contemplating, and I really loved it. Not too much, but I did. And I took my gen ed, my communication gen ed, and I loved that class because it actually helped me get out of my shell. Because when I came here, I wasn't actually talking. I was always home. I just go to class and come back home, just study, and that was my life. And when I took my communication class, that was my first time doing like a group project, and I started meeting people. I actually started having conversation with people other than my friend and my brother. So I was like, oh, it's helping me communicate. And if I want to be a lawyer, I'm gonna learn to communicate with other people. I'm gonna learn to talk because I always tell myself that I don't know how to talk. So I double major in communication. I took up communications as my other major, and I was killing it. And I was like, yeah,
Nice,
eh,
nice.
yeah.
Well, after spending 15 minutes with you, if I ever see you in a courtroom, I hope it's as my defense attorney, not the prosecutor. I would be,
Hopefully,
yeah,
fingers
I
crossed.
would be toast. I would be toast. If I see you on the other side, I will just immediately plead guilty. I'm going to quote. There's a part of, and this kind of illustrates what you've been talking about. But I thought this is a beautiful line from your op-ed. This is in the Youngstown State newspaper. The John Bar. Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
What's a John Bar, by the way?
It's the school's newspaper.
Fair enough. Asked and answered,
Yeah.
counselor. Uh, here's the line. For international students, college life is not just about classes and parties. It's also about navigating a new world. We are constantly learning, not just in the classroom, but with every interaction. And so it sounds like I could ask you a lot of questions about how academic life is different, but it sounds to me like every hour of every day, you're having to learn new stuff. And it sounds like you're more comfortable there than you were 3 years ago. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. And so I'm going to use my last two jobs, well, my last job and my current job. So I was an orientation ambassador for international students, and I got to meet like a lot of international students coming in for the first time. And I realized that people really don't know what to do. Because again, this is our first time in a not a different country, but like a whole different continent.
Mm.
So we don't know what to do. And I thought when I was always asking questions and I feel like I'm like disturbing someone and I don't want to intrude and stuff like that. So I'm always like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And so when we was doing my orientation ambassador and some like kids would ask me questions and they'll be like, I'm sorry. I was like, no, why are you sorry? Then one day I went home with my cousin and my brother and my sister. I was like, that's how I act. Like, whenever I ask people a question, I'm like, I'm sorry. Or something, they're like, why do you apologize? I'm like, because I feel like I'm being too much. But then I realized, like, you don't know. Like, you have to ask questions. You have to be willing to ask questions. And that is something that we have to learn because we feel like we're intruding, like, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be like, oh, look at this dumb international students always asking questions. Here they go again.
Mm.
But no, no one thinks that. No one really thinks that. And I really learned that when I started my job here. And I have such amazing bosses. And my coworkers are so freaking amazing.
Hmm.
And I ask questions all the time. And I found out that actually my boss actually loved that because she's like, she's actually willing to learn. She's always asking questions. I thought I was being weird. I thought I was being stupid. But no, like they love that. Like they want you to ask questions. They want you to learn. They want you to make it because you're asking questions means that you want to learn. You're making the effort. So it's just like constant learning because I didn't know that. I mean, I thought asking questions was stupid. But no, it's just you're clearly like this is a job and you don't know, and that's why your bosses are there because they've been there before. That's why you have like supervisors and stuff like that. Like take the time to ask questions. It's fine. Like don't. And another thing too, I learned was that when I first came here, I was trying to sound too American, like
Mm.
because I don't want people to be like, "What are you saying?" So I was actually trying to like up my accents and stuff like that. No, don't do that. Like if someone wants to have a conversation with you, don't make the effort to understand your accent. Like keep your accent. I mean,
Hmm.
speak proper English, obviously, but don't try to phonetize too much. It's fine. They will understand. I promise you, they understand. They do.
Yes.
They do.
Yes. And you may underappreciate the extent to which your life experience and the knowledge and wisdom you have to share benefits
Right.
American students. And you probably don't think of that in those interactions. But
Mm.
my experience in college, some of my best friends were Dutch and Nigerian and Thai, and I appreciated them for who they were, regardless of where
Right.
they were from. But I learned so
Right.
much from them too.
Yeah.
Um, Last question for you. I went to school 1,000 miles away, was very homesick. I
Right.
missed Oklahoma food, so I missed fried okra. Fried okra is a delicacy down south.
Mm.
What do you miss about home?
I miss the food.
Mm.
Oh my God. I miss the food so much. And it's crazy because for some reason, I mean, I know it's in America. I know Youngstown is in America, but like, where is the African store, man? Like, you have to go to Cleveland or Akron or to Canfield and stuff like that. Like, there's nothing in Youngstown. I mean, we had like a small mini mart like in Girard, and then they closed that up too.
Mm.
I'm like, do you hate us? Like, come on, guys. I miss I miss the food, and I miss the music too, which
Uh,
is crazy because when I was back home, I my brothers would like play African music. I'm like, no, put on some Chris Brown, put up some Nicki Minaj. No, I mean, I just still listen to Chris Brown and Nicki Minaj, but here I'm like always catching myself singing African music, and my brother's like, "Oh, so now you like African music?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm not in Africa anymore."
All right, for the listeners, what is the best? Because I know a lot of like West African music comes out of Nigeria. Who are the artists you would recommend, Nigerian or otherwise? Who do I need to find on Spotify?
Hmm. Um, so for Sierra Leone, I'll say definitely my cousin. Um, I don't know his thing. I can check, but my cousin, his name, I think it's Magic Kadrick, I think,
Okay,
and Drizzly for sure. And Nigeria, I think Bon Boy, Davido, Wizkid. South Africa, I'll say Tyler. She's popping up right now.
okay.
And I'm a piano. I really do love I'm a piano. Again, guys, I'm horrible. Like I'm just catching up with my African music. So please bear with me. If you listen to those people and you don't like them, don't quote me. Don't be like, oh, I should told me to listen to these people. Please don't. But I promise you, I feel like you're gonna like them. I feel like you're gonna enjoy their music because I feel like African music is just if you like dancing and you know how to dance, you're gonna enjoy listening to African music for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I've been taking furious notes. I'm gonna catch up. And I'll have you back on the pod in a year, and I'll update you. I'll update you on my progress.
Okay.
All right. Well, Aicha, it's been wonderful to have you on the podcast. Again, I'm going to try to plug your op-ed in the show notes. And you're midway through your senior year. Good luck in your final semester.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was really nice having a conversation with you. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, and usually I would say stay warm, but since you prefer the opposite, I'll say stay cold.
You too.